there, it's Janene at 49 and Market. I am excited to share with you a brand new album that I made using the triple flip albums. These are new from 49 and Market, and they're just simply a nice, beautiful shell made of chipboard. This is our matte finish. It has a magnetic edge to it, and as you can see, basically it just unfolds so that you have 3 different inner panels. Each has a bit of a gusset in it so that you can layer up your pieces accordingly. We also offer the quadruple, which is 4 panels. So this is just a little bit smaller. And I get to use the amazing Nostalgic Memories collection from Dennis Bruton. I love this collection. It is just filled with such beautiful, timeless elements, colors, papers, dried flowers, just absolutely gorgeous. So join me in playing along. This particular album will use our Create an Album assortment number 2. This is the black. We have it in all the black and the white options. And basically this is a set of various pieces. You have about 2 different folios with different flips and flops and little spine hinge pieces. And the idea behind these sets is that you can mix and match all of your pieces to make a wide assortment of different combinations. So this is just one example that I'll be doing in this particular project. So let's get started. I know it's sometimes a little bit difficult to see on camera when we have the black on black, but hopefully this will work out for us. So in that pack, there are 2 different folios. One is a triple folio. It has the 3 panels side to side. The other kind of has a bit of an enclosure with more of like the cross kind of a looking one. So you have the side panels, the bottom panel, all that good stuff. So we're going to put this one off to the side for now, and we're going to begin by using the one that simply has the 3 different panels. So for this particular section of the album, which this is going to go on the inside, but for now I'm going to put that off to the side just to not confuse us. When you open up these pieces, you'll see that they are pre-scored, but not all of the lines have been burnished for you. So you'll want to make sure that you burnish all of the edges so that you'll have that space with the gusset for your album. So you can use a bone folder tool to do that. So this was a little bit simple on its own for me. So I wanted to add some flaps. And for this section, I'm going to use those flaps that have the score line on the 6-inch length so that leaves me with a 4 by 6-inch panel. There are 4 of these pieces, so I'm just scoring. I could burnish, so why not? They're easy enough. And basically what I did here on this particular section is I am going to create a double gatefold on those outer panels. So it will be something along those lines. So now in order to do this where it makes the most sense and it's easy to follow in terms of how to place this, and I am just realizing I probably should have prepared all my adhesives and whatnot in front of me, but easy enough to reach them. So for now, I am going to, I'm trying to think of what I'm gonna do. I'm going to adhere some score tape on the inside of those flaps. So what I'm doing is, and I'm not too particular about measuring my tape, because I am going to use a bit of wet glue. And the reason that I do that wet glue also on top of the score tape is that it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to work with. So, okay, so you can see that those are going to be my inside flaps. And I'm going to pull out some of the papers. Now, I could put these flaps right directly onto the folio, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it onto a sheet of cardstock so that I can ensure that the flaps will meet in the middle. So I'm going to use that cardstock. You can see, I mean, there is a little bit of a slight gap, but that's okay. So basically, we're going to adhere those 2 flaps on the back of that paper, and then we'll be putting it into our folio. So when I do this, and you know, this isn't major book construction on this part. I am gonna just do this because I say to do it, and then if I don't do it, I'll regret it. Let's get that glue going. always fun when it's not prepped, right? Usually it comes out so nice and easy. Okay, let's go on to the next bottle. We'll use a brand new bottle because that will just make it easier, since none of you, I'm sure, want to be wasting time with me doing that. So I kind of just, like I said, I do a little bit of a squiggle like that. This way, when I press up, and I'm going to use the bottom of my table here, the glass mat, and I'm going to just ensure that that's a nice tight wrap around that sheet of paper and that it's all lined up. So again, I will do the same for the bottom piece. Again, just kind of seeing where that lines up. It's nice and even. And then I secure it like so. Very easy, super easy. I'm gonna put a little bit more tape, I guess, on the sides here. I could use my wet glue. I probably will most of the time here. But I'll just give that a little nice edge around of some tape. And I'm just not too particular. I know everybody has a different method, a different system, and that's fine. Do what works for you. It's your project. Definitely feel free to go rogue and do what you need to on your end of things. I am going to pull back all those tape bits. Okay. I'll then add my squiggle wiggles of glue, also some glue where I didn't have some tape going, and maybe just a little in the middle for good measure. Okay, so when I adhere this, I'm double checking. There is like kind of a, I don't know if there's a top and a bottom, but you'll see that there are two different edges to those roses. I'm gonna go with the doily at the bottom. Again, I really don't think that it makes a bit of difference. I'm just mentioning that. So I am going to position it so that there is a slight gap, and I kind of, hopefully you're not watching the top of my head, but I always have to like look on top and all around on my edges to see where I'm going to make sure that I'm even. I left a very slight gap on the top and bottom because it mostly lines up. There's a slight edge on that left hand open side, and then you'll see that I'm making sure there is a little, I guess I wasn't totally even here. I have a little bit more on the right side, which I'm fine with. You just want to make sure that you are not covering the score line from the folio, as that would prohibit you from opening and closing the folio accordingly. So that is how I put mine in there. And we're going to do the exact same thing for the right-hand side as well. So once again, I am going to put my score tape on the inside flaps, and then I will secure it to my paper. Now, if at any time you're following along, you're falling behind, you have the beautiful option of pausing, rewinding, all that good stuff. So I do tend to go a little bit quicker than I probably should, but you can do what you need to make sure that you are going at your pace. So again, I'm just securing that to the paper so that it's going to wrap around nice and easy. And then I'll do the bottom. I always try to use as much leverage as I can with angles. And here it's nice, I can tap this to one side, it's on the bottom. I know that those pieces are gonna line up nice and easy. So I could change it, maybe I will. I'm gonna put the doily at the top. I guess I did do it at the bottom. I'm not sure what I said before. Doesn't really make a difference. As you can see, it's pretty similar on both sides. So here I am again, just putting a little bit of score tape. Sometimes I feel like all I do is repeat myself, but maybe that's a good thing as you follow along. And if not, you can always mute me and put on some music. That's what I would probably do. Wish I had music on in the background, but then I might make you suffer and actually listen to me sing or something, and that would just be awful. So I will just keep going as we are going here. Okay. So pretty easy, but you'll see just adding the flips and flops in these projects makes such a difference. So again, I add a little bit of that wet glue just so that it gives me the leverage I need in case I'm not fully lined up like I might want to be. because I do have a bit of an issue with my eyes. I do have my glasses on tonight, but you know, trying to make sure all angles are secured. And I'm noticing my tape is sticking out, so I am just gonna fold that back. Okay, so I like to make sure my top, my bottom, my sides, are we all kind of even, sort of, kind of, maybe, hopefully. Oop, hopefully I'm not hitting the camera with the top of my head again. Okay, and once again, you'll see I have that little slight edge on the black. I didn't cover my seam to the folio, so all of this will be able to fold nice and easy. So while we're here and we've already grabbed out papers, I suppose it's sometimes just easier to cover these pieces with paper since we're already here. So I am going to do that. I'm going to first pull out for my center. I absolutely love this page. And I probably should have mentioned, if you want to ink edges, you certainly can do so. That is a completely optional thing. I'm going to load up my cappuccino blending tool over here with a good amount so that you can see how beautiful. I absolutely love how cappuccino works with this collection. Definitely a staple color if you ask me, but you can certainly ink those edges if you like. I didn't do it on my initial two, but that's okay. I find for me, usually when I'm inking edges, it's more so if I was using like a white background and white papers that I want to make sure that I'm using those inking edges, which I do love the effect on the black. I'm just saying it's not as contrasting or whatever the right words would be. For this page, I'm going to seize the opportunity and just trim back a little bit on this paper clip, or not paper clip, book clip. So this way I will be able to stick something underneath so that it will realistically look like it is a clip in my book. So you could use a ruler or a straight edge if you like. Remember, our paper is quite thick, so I am doing this on a glass mat and putting quite a bit of pressure. So I'm just really going to do that bottom edge and then the curvature of that first part. So I'm gonna just make sure it pulls back, and it does. So this way, when I adhere this into the center, I just wanna make sure that I'm not putting any glue or adhesive where that line is. So this way, if I want to use that, which I will use that later, I'll be able to just have no issues with the sliding of it back and forth, okay? So I do use a lot of wet glue these days. I find it just saves those tape runners. I feel like they get used so easily that lately I've been kind of just going to my liquid glue for a lot of these projects. So as you can see, that's just gonna lift up so I'll be able to slide something in there later. So super easy. On these inside panels, we're going to take 2 sheets of that beautiful rose-colored pattern. This one has the maroon and dots on the back. There's actually 3 sheets of each design. We're going to be using 2 of them. So we'll use 2 of those. We're going to cut that. The sheets are 6 by 8. We're going to cut that in half so that we have 4 pieces of 6 by 4 inch. You can either ink the edges, or you can sand the edges, or you can certainly leave them plain. I have a tendency on dark papers like this. I'm just going to give it a little sanding of that edge just to give it a little bit of contrast. So you can see how easily I'm doing that. And again, totally optional. You can ink it. Black ink would also look beautiful. All kinds of options. And again, you can also even just leave it blank. So doing this quick, making a mess. And then I will adhere these panels to the inside flaps of this folio, okay? And there's so many ways that you can go about doing the folios. You know, you can construct your entire book first before adding any of the papers. I'm just doing this because I'm finding the process for this particular one a little easier for me so that I can explain which papers are going to be going where and why, which flaps or what. But it is, again, completely up to you. So the flaps on here are 6 by 4, so those are just going to line up. You do want to make sure that your seam, for whatever reason, is not going to be covered. So this way you'll be able to fold those pages. Okay. Mine does pop out a smidge over here because of that fold, and that's totally fine. When we cover the back side, we'll just match it up to that bottom edge as well. So I am putting these pieces in. You can see how easy. Again, I'm just lining that up. So this way I'm pushing it to that edge. So that way it will allow my fold without any issues, okay? And I'm just going side to side. And this is also part of the reason why I think I've been using liquid glue lately. It just allows me the ability, as my eyes are failing me a little bit, to easily adjust as I go. You know, I can slide this around for a little bit so that I can get it in the right place. Whereas if I had an adhesive or a score tape, let's say, it would just be, you're stuck with what you're stuck with. So this is just a little easier for me. And I do have to say, I taught a class recently and I got a very high compliment because I said, is it just me or is everybody using glue? I mean, I remember the glue gets so much better because I used to remember all the warping, and someone said, you can do that with your paper because your paper is so thick, but not all papers can you use the wet glue with. But of course that made me happy because the quality of our paper is so wonderful. So I have zero issue using my liquid glue. This is the Media Glue matte liquid from Dina Wakley and Ranger that I'm using. Plenty of wet glues work as well. So quick little look at just the inside of that triple folio. You see how easy it came together. I can then close those panels, and on the outside we are going to take which papers? Not these papers, but let's see. We are looking for, and these packs are all separated, so it's a little bit trickier, but we're gonna find what we need somehow, some way. Hopefully not taking up too much of your time. Where is my papers? Okay, is it you? I'm like, is it you? Is it you? It is you, it's you. On these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it is you. So these are the ones that also have like the 6x4 inch panel with the beautiful artwork here. This has the rose colored back on it. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna simply cut these in half so that it leaves me with 4 6x4 pieces. And then we're gonna adhere them to the outside. So as you can see, if you have a little bit of a lip like I do, accounting for the fold in the paper, I'm going to make sure that I line it up to this edge when I put it down. I also try to sometimes flip the papers a little bit. So here, you know, if I put these going up, I'm going to keep them all going up, but we can change like which direction is which. You know, I'm going to put the outer corners and then the inner corners on the bottom. And again, it makes no difference. So if you like to ink, and if you don't want to ink, certainly don't feel like you need to. You could also, on these particular pages, you could do this after the inking because you have those open edges everywhere, so it would be easy to do so. But I am just going to give it a quick little 1-2 on this, okay? And you can see just how beautiful that comes in. Matches this collection, gorgeous. Salted caramel would work as well, or I'm sure if you have other browns in your arsenal, you can use them as well. I am obviously a little bit partial to these days, okay? So I will glue these on the outside flap. Again, I'm using that top edge, and this way, because the blacks are all going to blend. So there is a bit of a slight little black gap there at the bottom, but I love how the tops line up and very easy to do that, okay? Add a little bit of glue. Again, I'm putting my tops together, smushing them all around. And kind of pushing that in together. So there is a little bit of a gap between those papers, and that's totally fine. I am cool with that. One thing about doing a pre-recorded video versus a live is I have no comments to get any feedback off of or to have any conversation points. So hopefully you're all with me. This is making sense. You're enjoying the process. You can, again, pause as you need and even mute me if you like. Okay, so super easy. Okay, so once again, this is the inside panel, and I'll do the pages on the outside, but I would open it and I'm gonna get those nice little flaps. So that's just a quick look, very quick look at how we constructed this portion. I'm gonna close the right-hand side and I'm gonna keep this flap. On this side, I'm gonna go with the brown dotted paper. This is the back side of those beautiful drawers, which don't you worry, we will most definitely be using those drawers elsewhere. I'm just gonna go with this page here, okay? And then I put this to cover here. And I just think this will be a little easier as we move forward since it's already going to be covered versus saying black panel, this, that. You know, this way at least we have some color and some patterns going on. So again, this was the right-hand side. Okay, then I close this, and on top would be, we are going to do the awesome, what is that? Typewriter keys. The typewriter keys, we're gonna do the typewriter keys, which has green dots or green on the back side. And again, just inking. Okay, now I could adhere this folio as is to the inside flap of my album, but I wanted to just bring in one other element, and I'm gonna show you what we are going to do. So this could be put into your album, or it could actually be its own folio on its own. I mean, there's nothing to say that it has to go into an album, but I'm putting it in an album. So if this is our trifold, so this was, we open it up and we have these inside panels. I'm gonna be putting this on the left side panel here. So I could glue it in here, and you do wanna make sure, the biggest thing that when you do this is that you're gonna make sure that you are not covering the seams of the folds. So this way you have, again, no issues with the album opening and closing, and there's not a lot of wiggle room there. But instead of just leaving this as is like this, which would open up as such, I am going to make it into another page. So in your kit, or in the pack of the assortments, you have these random pieces, and this is what I call a page hinge, I think, or spine hinge. I don't even know what I call it. They're kind of like a random piece, but what they do is they allow you to add them to the back of something, so that if I adhere this nice and securely to the back of this, and then I'm gonna put it into my album, I'm gonna wind up creating a full page here. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna kind of move this off like that for a minute so that you can see. I'm going to put some score tape, and of course my little contraption over here is, all right, let's see. For this, I wanna make sure I'm really using a nice amount of adhesive, which again, I can always use my wet glue as well. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna actually put it on both sides, and the reason being is that this will be going into the enclosure here, as well as the back of our book, okay? So I'm only gonna peel back one side for right now, and I'll show you why, because we're gonna do a little something, something. I don't know what I'm doing with this, but I will put this to the back of the book. So just to kind of refresh you on this. So this is, let's see, this is why it's not upside down. If this is gonna be the front of the book, I'm gonna be opening it this way. I'm gonna be putting the spine hinge on the right-hand side, and I'm gonna wanna do it so that the opening of the spine hinge is going into the page. And I don't know if this is just easier for me to see it this way. I'm going edge to edge. along that backside corner on the inside of that fold. And I'm gonna nicely secure that in place, okay? So again, the idea behind this is that this will be what adheres to the book, and it will pop a little bit up because there is the depth of this enclosure, but that will be totally fine when you are working with your book. So that's gonna be the one side, but I wanted to kind of take it a step further, and I wanted to make it so that you knew that you should be opening this, as well as how is this thing gonna kind of stay shut as you're opening your book. And so what I came up with and what I decided to do is I took one of the extra pages in our assortment pack. This is the one that has the spine hinge on the 8-inch length. And I'm going to cut a piece that is going to be 5 inches high and 5 inches from the fold. So I'm gonna just put my little trimmer over here just to show you. I'm gonna go 5 inches high. And from where this fold is, I'm not really concerning myself about my diagonals or not. You can if you like, but it's all kind of pretty much gonna get covered. I'm gonna, from the fold, do another 5 inches. So nope, I almost messed up. I'm not doing 5 inches yet. What I am gonna do first is I wanna give it a 1/2 inch gusset. The reason being is when this gets put into the book on the base on the back, I then need to have enough room that's going to wrap around this opening, and that's why I need to add that 1/2 inch gusset. So there's the previous score in the paper from the kit. I'm going to score at a 1/2 inches, you like that? 1/2 inch over from that score line. And I love this trimmer for this very reason. It's just so easy to use my bone folder in that track to get the nice score mark that I need. So this is now a 1/2 inch gusset here. And then I will cut to the 5 inch mark. So these are leftover pieces. That final piece, you could, if it bothers you, or if you just want to know what's what, we can just cut a little triangle there if we want. This inner flap is what's going to get adhered to the book. We then have the 1/2 inch that wraps around, and then we're gonna have the front in the middle. To put the adhesive on the outside flap, and this is kind of, okay, so hopefully it's not too jumbled on the replay of this, because we're gonna fix my mistake. I made the mistake of putting this on the inside. And the reason that was a mistake, and you can see there's a little adhesive, is because we want to have this flap on the base structure of the album. Okay, so again, just to repeat, we're opening the album. This is the left-hand panel, and we are going to want to position the flap so that there is approximately, it's a little less than the 5 layers of keys, but I'm gonna kind of hold it like this. And again, with trying to get my bearings about me on terms of height and width, and am I even, am I not? So I'm kind of looking all the way around. My biggest thing is that I want to make sure that I am not within the fold lines of the album. Okay, I'm not. So I gently put that in, and because I have a little adhesive here, I'm kind of, pretend I don't have this adhesive here. But I want to make sure that that is going to fold in this way. And so because I've now gunked up my book, which you're hopefully not doing, so I don't want to put this down just solid yet, but yes I do. Well, I'm making sure I'm not sticking this to the back of my folio, otherwise it will not open accordingly, and then you will have done all this for nothing. So because we want this to be a swinging page, we want to make sure that this doesn't. And you know what? Let's get smart, Janene. Let's do that. Is it going to stick? More or less. Okay, phew, that's kind of easy. Or not easy, but okay. So if this were to be this way, and my album's going to be this way, and all my pieces, everything's coming to be together, I want to make sure, again, that I am not in the fold of my album as I'm putting down that edge. So I am just inside the fold line here. I can double check that my boxedness of it will go. I'm then going to burnish very nicely in that edge. So again, pretend that there's no adhesive here, and this would be your flap so that your page. And we will hold this down so that it stays shut so that when you open your album, you have no issues. Ooh, whew, okay. Always, you know, always a little issue or a little hiccup, but hopefully video editing and not being alive, nobody made the mess up that I did. So again, just to like reiterate, you would open it this way, that way, and you can see I just have fun with flips and flaps. I'm always a flip and flap girl. So that's the folio, and then the folio will open this way. So on those inside pages of the folio, we're going to take these two. And again, this is one of those, I'm just gonna add a little bit of ink around the edges, dirty this one up a little bit. This is the back of the collection cover. So you can see we always use everything that we have before us, okay? And then I'm gonna just ink that. I probably should have done the inking ahead of time, but that's all good, okay? All right, so I'm going to adhere the, this one, and before I do, I'm just gonna double check, because a lot of these pages have a little bit of extra room to them, but some are the 6x8, and that's just the way that the different folds and whatnot have to be configured sometimes. So I just wanted to give it a little look. So this particular paper will go down with a little bit of edging around from on the black. So I'm gonna put it like so, and that's again why I love my wet glue, because it gives me that room to play or move it around, even if I goof. Did I do that all right? Okay. We will secure that in place, okay? So I'm just kind of leveraging that a little bit. And then on the other side here, I'll remove my little tape. And again, just do that, okay? All right, now I'm kind of closing off most of those gaps from the spine hinge and whatnot. As you'll see, I'm trying to make sure that my top and bottom of the paper is even. And again, making sure that none of my fold lines are covered by the paper. So that is a look at this section. Super fun, I think. I don't know if you guys are flips and flaps people, but I am just swinging around, making sure my video is still going. Nothing worse than getting into something and then realizing you didn't hit start or something. Okay, so that is that first folio on that left-hand side. Again, just to give you a quick little walkthrough, I flip it open, I'd have this page, I flip it open, we have our flaps. Again, this will all be covered with photos. We have our ephemera and frame set, we have our laser cuts, and we're gonna have a lot of fun mixing and matching those pieces, okay? So it's nice and covered here, okay? So this is the construction portion of the album, which to me is always, always fun. So we go to the center, and what are we doing in the center? For the center pages, I feel like, you know, I put things down, I say, what did I do with them? What did I do? We are going to be using these flaps, which are 6" by 4" with the score line on that 4" mark. And basically the idea behind this is that we will be creating side flips so that we have one going one direction, one going another. So it'll kind of go, this goes to the right, that goes to the left, and flip flop back and forth. So you're using the 4 pieces that have the 4" score line on the sides. Now for this one, we are going to add a little bit of depth to the score lines, because as you start building it, it does get bulkier as you go. This is the paper that I'll be using is gonna actually be the green dot, which is the opposite side of the, the keys, the typewriter keys. So that's gonna be our base in the center on the back. But I'm going to, it's up to you guys. Okay, so the idea would be this. We're gonna basically do what we did over here, but we're going side to side. So we're using the paper to wrap our photo mats and our flips on the sides, okay? So that's gonna go on the top and on the bottom. But as I mentioned, you know, we're gonna put a little bit of depth in here because as you start putting photos and embellishments in the laser cuts, it does get a little bulky. We're not gonna use any foam tape, so we are gonna keep this somewhat minimal. But so whether you want to, and really you wanna keep the 6" by 4" length, otherwise it might look a little weird. You could alter measurements, but that gets a little trickier. So we're really using the inside of the spine piece for any potential extra gusset that we want to use, and then you're just shortening the length of the flap to adhere to the back of the page. So I'm going to take 2 of the flaps, and you want to keep both even. So if one's going to be on the inner, one's going to be on the outer, one layer, I should say. So this way you're going to have 2. I'm going to use, and hopefully you can see this in my mirror, in the video. I'm going to, it's like 5/8 of an inch of a flap. So I am going to use the 1/2 inch line here to line up, which means I'm using about 1/8 of an inch as my gusset. And I want to make sure that I keep this even on 2 of the pieces, since those will be what line up together. So you can see here, it's a very slight gusset, but it's enough to just give it a little bit of wiggle room. So hopefully you can see that. So on this one, I'm going to do it as the 1/8. Again, I'm using the line here so that it goes to the 1/2 inch, and then it gives me the gusset for 1/8 of an inch, making sure I really kind of get that in there, and then burnish that accordingly, okay? So I have 2 pieces that have this 1/8 of an inch. That could be our outer, or you can go even further. If you want to give yourself a little bit more room, let's see what this looks like. If I try to now use this inside line with the score line so that I can go with 1/4 of an inch, I'm gonna line that up so that I have 1/4 of an inch. I just wanna make sure that I'm leaving myself enough of a flap to adhere to the back of the paper, okay? So I take this, and now I have 1/4 inch on this piece, and then I'm going to do the same over here with this other piece. So again, I'm using the 1/4 on the inside so that these are nice and even, okay? And I should be taking all these photographs as I go so that we have the written directions to coordinate, but I know I'm gonna wind up having to make another one just because I'm not taking any pictures, or maybe we'll take the pictures like this and then just use our words. So we're gonna be adhering it onto this paper before adhering the paper onto the album. So if our inner pieces are going to be the 1/4 inch, the 1/8 of an inch, and then the outer piece will be the 1/4 inch. This way you're allowing for the room between each piece, okay? So for our first layer, again, this is gonna be the one that has the 1/8 inch. And what I like to do is, I'm not really sure why I do this, but I do this. I kind of crisscross them. So you could have them both going the same direction, but I'm not going to. So it's up to you on how you wanna do it. But I'm going to take I'm gonna first make it easier, so this way I can show you. I'm going to put the adhesive, the score tape, on the inside flap, because this is what's gonna wrap around to our paper. And I overestimated here, but that's all right. I'll just trim that. Okay. And again on the inside here. Oh wow, usually my eyeball is a little bit better. I usually go shorter than I do longer, but that's okay. Okay, so on the top, I'm gonna, again, this is the 1/8 inch piece. I am going to make sure that when I do this, it's just like we did before, except I'm going at the top and the side. And when I do it, I wanna have it so that way it's lined up to the gusset. So hopefully you're seeing this. Hopefully I'm doing it correctly. I'm kind of tapping over here, but I do want to make sure that the paper goes to that inside line here. And again, it goes top to bottom, and I am all lined up, okay? And then on the bottom, same thing. So you're kind of using the edge of the newly created score line to be what you're going to adhere to. And I don't know if like doing this over the black makes it harder to see. So I just gonna pull that away for right now. Again, using that edge, kind of like just tapping it. So this way I can make sure everything's lined up. Yes, it's gonna open nice. And you can see how those are now gonna go different directions, okay? So that was the 1/8 inch little gusset that we created. So they'll go side to side, it goes edge to edge. If you've done anything wrong, you can kind of finagle your edges and angles a little bit if you need to. So then on the other two pieces, I'm gonna go the opposite direction. So if this one's going to the left, this one's gonna go to the right. So I will put that adhesive in the inside yet again. All right. Kind of fun. It's a quiet house here, and I'm taking advantage. I did pour myself a glass of wine, so hopefully I'm making sense to everybody and everybody's happy with the rate at which I am going here. Again, you can always pause, so it's kind of easy. It isn't live, so that does make it easier. Okay, I probably should have gone with a slightly thinner score tape. Okay, but since this is going on the back, it really won't matter. Okay, so again, I want to make sure that now this is a small little flap, but that I want to do it so that the score line is not affected by the little flap there. Okay, so I'm against the edge. I'm kind of tapping it so this way I know I'm on the bottom and that's gonna go top to bottom, and now I'm a little bit off there. Okay, maybe I'll do it that way. Kind of, it's a little tricky sometimes, right? You just want to make sure all that your angles are even, and I think that's obviously the hardest part. So again, I'm tapping it, making sure that, yeah, okay, so that top and bottom are gonna go nice and easy. So this was the 1/8 inch on the left, this is the 1/4 on the right, and then we're gonna do the opposite on the bottom here, okay? Alrighty. Little tricky, but again, take the time to do it right. You have score tape, you have your liquid tape, you know, you just wanna make sure that those angles, that all the papers are lining up. That is the #1 rule to making your own little folios, okay? I should say it's a rule, but it works out better. They come out nicer when you do that. Okay, so all of my pieces you can see here. I'm now kind of giving it a nice little rubbing. So again, the 1/4 inch to the right, the 1/8 to the left, the 1/4 inch to the left, the 1/8 to the right. And you can see that that's gonna nicely line up. So we can put this into our album and then cover it with our papers. So I'm gonna give it a nice little, whoops, rundown of the score tape here. I love my score tape, if you can't tell. Do love it. Comes in handy. Okay. Peel that back. And then use our glue. Okay. And this is going to send panel. Again, I'm keeping in mind these inner tracks here from the album. I do not want to cover them. This is a 6x8, so I'm going to have a little bit more room on the top and the bottom there. and even on the sides, which is good. So kind of am lightly adhering it, checking my height, the bottom. I am good with this. Is it perfect? No, but I'm gonna live with it. And then I'll open up these pieces so that I can then just push it in so that I'm really securing it to the back of the album. So this is our center piece. And if we have everything open, I'm not even gonna cover these insides. I'm going with the assumption I'm going to put full 6" by 4" photos on these inner pieces. We will go ahead and decorate that later. So I first close the 1/8 of an inch. And when I close the 1/8 of an inch, we are going to adhere, which paper? I didn't have these all lined up, but we will get there. Where are you? Oh, where are you indeed? And things are hiding on me. Okay, you should in theory have 2 of these papers left that have like kind of like the pre-built setup for photo mats. So the first one we're going to use is the same as before that had the little tickets on the corner and then the doilies. I'm cutting that at the 6" mark. Just giving it a real quick little shimmy. Looks like my paper blade might be going. Always happens to me during the class. I don't know why. But so again, this is the 1/8 of an inch flaps that I folded first. And then I am going to secure these to that top panel. Again, they're the 6 by 4 inch, so you should be going edge to edge. You could also, if you wanted to, you could certainly trim these down a little bit. If you're a fan of using the black edge as a nice little border, I always do love my black edge. But for this particular project, I did just go edge to edge. You don't want any glue coming out the sides, okay? So I'm putting my tickets facing up. I could flip them around. I could cover it up later. I think actually I did do something different on my exact sample that I have with the finished ones. I actually put this with the doily up here and this one here, but it's really not going to matter and be a pivotal point in this album. When you see how beautiful the elements all go together, and it's like you can do no right or wrong. You don't need to use the exact elements that I used. It's just beautiful, beautiful elements. All the colors just blend seamlessly. So again, this is it all open. This was the 1/8 of an inch folded in. So the top went to the right, the bottom goes to the left. And then if we close our 1/4 inch flaps here, we then have what on the outside. We're gonna take this page and do the same thing with our 4 by 6. So we do that. We ink a little bit. I love inking my edges. Okay. So I'm gonna add that to the top. I don't know if you guys can hear the wind outside, but it is a windy, windy night. It's actually Halloween, the night that I'm filming this, which we don't really get many trick-or-treaters because we're kind of out in the woods. Which is almost sad, but all my kids are all at friends' houses, but they are going trick-or-treating, so I was excited about that. So now I'm dating this video, but that's okay. Okay, so that middle section, done, easy. The 1/4 inch flaps, so the bottom's going to go to the left, the top goes to the right, and then the opposite corners for the 1/8 inch one. So easy but fun. Hopefully you're enjoying that. You can see how much you could just keep adding flips and flaps and all that goodness. On our last panel, we are going to use this enclosure, and we're going to use it as it is, as it was intended, without any flips and flops. So what do you need to know with this one? With this one, you're going to want to make sure that you burnish all edges. I shouldn't say all edges, all score lines that it comes with. So this way you have that nice gusseted area for the dimension of your project. Okay, So I'm kind of just pushing that down. As you can see, I'm just not really like the technical person. I kind of just enjoy it, go with it, is what it is. Okay. Okay, so now I've burnished all of those edges. And perhaps it's easier maybe just to decorate this one with our papers before we put it into the album. So this way it's a little bit easier to see. I'm a big fan of doing the flap to the bottom, opening first to the left and then opening to the right. I don't know why, but that's just the way I tend to go about things. You'll see that this kind of creates a nice little box. You do have other flips and flops in your pages. You certainly could use these if you wanted to do full pages. You could cut them in half if you wanted the 6x4 inch, so you could create more 6x4s. You could also take this one and create a vertical 6x4 inch, I'm sorry, 4x6 inch, so that if you wanted to do something. So you do have options to add more if you like. I'm going to leave this as is because I will also say this. As you will see when the dimensional gets put together, or I'll show you right now to prove my point, all of these can easily flip and flap into here, but the more that dimension that you put in here, the harder this will get to close. So we'll be good to go with what we've got going on, but if you do add too much, then it winds up causing you issues later. So this panel is gonna go here onto the right-hand side. So let's set up that enclosure so that it is nice and easy. I love this paper. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. We are going to put this on both the bottom outside and bottom, both flaps here is what I'm really trying to say. The inside and outside of that bottom flap. And when I line it up, I am good to go. I'm not going to have to trim that paper down, so I am not going to. I do kind of like the darkness of it without sanding it this time against that black. So hopefully you can see this on the screen, using that as my edge to keep it nice and, am I even? No, I'm really not. If anything, I like to tend to go a little less on the bottom edge because that'll also be against the album, but I'm keeping the top and sides nice and even, okay? And then on the bottom, I'm gonna flip it out that way. I'm also just measuring it, I don't know why. Sometimes on those insides and outsides, the measurements do get a little off somehow because of the fold in the paper. But this looks good to go. I'll go closer to the fold line, but again, making sure that I do not cover it up. We do not want to cover up that fold because otherwise we will have problems. So this is that bottom flap. I'm going to use the same paper for the top inside flap and bottom flap. As you'll see, there is about a 1/2 inch corner rounding going on that flap. If you have a corner rounder, I like to use one. We are memory keepers, the 1/2 inch one works really well for me. You could eyeball it or you could just square it off if you would like to. So this flap measure, and I'm going to go with a 3-inch piece for that inside and outside. So let me double check that. Okay, that gives me a nice little edge around. I'll use my 1/2 inch corner rounder on the bottom corners. And then you can see it would be positioned like so. Again, my paper trimmer is just, I probably need to replace that blade. Okay. So we're gonna add that here so that it goes even to the side to side. Perfect, okay. And then we're gonna do another 3-inch piece for that inside flap, only this time you're gonna wanna do the 1/2 inch on your top 2 corners if you are doing the corner rounding, okay. So we do that. Okay, so that is the front flaps, the bottom, the top, easy enough. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that off to the side. Then we go to the front left-hand side. Okay, so this is gonna open to the left, and we're going to use this paper. This has the little heart doily on the bottom corner. It has the postcards on the back. I absolutely love these postcards, and it was so sad. I don't know if I actually used the postcards because I really like this pattern as well. And we do that, okay. See, my wet glue comes in handy because I never stick it down right the first time. Okay, so that is the right-hand page. Now, when I open these 3 panels, we are going to go with the 3 pages that all look like this. This has, it's so beautiful, the backside too. I did use this, and what I did was, just to change it up and break it, I used the centerpiece upside down, and then I kind of just covered up a lot of the text with my embellishments later so that you didn't really notice it. But again, that was just to kind of break up the pattern so it wasn't all the exact same. So I'm taking that middle piece and putting it upside down. And again, just doing a quick little inking. You could tatter up the edges. You could totally roughen them up. I do love to do that. Sometimes I do that after the fact with my fingernails. Okay. It definitely has that worn look, this vintage vibe. I mean, it's completely a vintage collection, and I love it. I love it. Just completely, I would say this is different from any of the other collections that we've done. Certainly different for any of Dennis's collections. Last one was Botanical Buzz. So we had those bright, beautiful colors, and now you've got the completely muted color palette, and they're all awesome and amazing. Okay. I just stuck my fingers in my glue. Okay, and then again, that middle piece is going to go upside down just to break up the continuity of those papers being the same. So again, make sure that your folds are in not being covered, making sure that your tops and bottoms of the pages, you want to kind of align them. You could go back. You will have a little bit of extra paper. You could obviously cover up some of these seams if you want to. I did not do that, but that is certainly an option that you would have. So that is a look at this. If I close the right-hand side, I get the doily. I close the left-hand side, I get the doily. And then we have the bottom and the top. I'm not going to worry about covering the back of the folio here because this is just going to get adhered into it. You certainly could, if you wanted to, do another flip. I'm not going to, as I'm not going to worry about this flying forward. And again, the depth that I had added to the album really was enough. You always just want to keep that in mind and kind of test things as you're going to make sure you're not adding too much bulk. You know, for anybody who's taken my classes, I do love my foam tape. This is not a project that we get to use a lot of foam tape because the layers do start getting bulky by default very easily. So just kind of give you a little extra over here. Again, this will all just be nice and secure to the back of our album. And this is going to go on that inside right panel. Okay. Yep. Okay. Oops, see, I'm upside down here, so that's always good. I am going to make sure that I'm trying to keep it as boxy as I can, like as 90-degree angles as I can. So kind of slap that bottom. Again, there's not, like I'll do this backwards so you can kind of see it. There's not a lot of give between the edge here and the inner spine fold to allow for this. So you're really going as far to the outer edge as you can. I do it like a hair on the inside, but not even that much, because you really want to make sure that this is not going to block that spine. So you can see that the top and bottom, you have a little bit on the top and the bottom. And again, I'm keeping it so that it's the 90-degree angles that I've got going on. But since we don't want anything to block, I'm going ever so slightly on the inside there before I pat it down. I'm gonna just double check. I'm not gonna have any issues closing, right? Okay, you can see it is tight. I am just on that line. Okay, so it goes edge to edge pretty much right here. And then I can open it all up and really give it a good squishing. Squish it in. Burnish that into the back there so that we have no issues with it, anything lifting, okay? So that is a look at the construction, which actually we might as well do it this way too, and then I'll flip through the whole thing before we embellish anything. So we have our outside edge here. I'm gonna fold that in. We did not cover this yet. So we need to do that. And what are we covering it with? We are gonna cover it with another sheet of the heart doily on the bottom edge. Okay. So a little ink. Little ink goes a long way. Okay. And then I will secure that here. Okay, giving that edge up. A little more space on the top and bottom than it does have on the sides. Okay. And again, trying to keep everything all in its angles. You'll see, okay, so that's the outer flap. So when I roll it, that's actually the back cover. So almost there in terms of covering, and maybe we'll just cover and then I'll walk through the whole thing. So this would be our front cover when we have the opening to the right edge, and then we have our front, and then we have our back. So what I decided to do was I put the all rose pattern on the backhand side, and I once again used this paper, my absolute favorite. And again, I just don't like to waste this little paper clip action. So I'm gonna do the same thing that we did earlier. This is gonna be for that front cover. And I am just going to give it a nice little opening. So this way I can use it with my embellishments and my photos later. I make sure that pops up, okay? And I'm gonna ink here. We are almost there with our base papers and then the folio bits. I like to try to systematically do this stuff so that it's not like 50,000 pieces all at once. So at this point, we've opened up our album, obviously. We've opened up the assortment pack, as well as our paper pack. And this way, we just don't have all of the pieces, because we will be using our ephemera and frame set, as well as the laser cut foliage set or floral set. And that becomes a whole lot of extra pieces, which probably I will even say we'll just do the ephemera and frames, and then I'll show you a walkthrough on the final album using the laser cuts. And again, I just kind of did this here, forgetting my little slit there. So when you do put your adhesive, you just want to make sure that you're not totally gluing where you just cut. So this way your flap will still, your flip will flap. I don't know. Okay, so I'm centering that onto the front cover. So this is the front cover. I know it's the front cover because my album opens to the right-hand side. Okay, the backhand side, not the backhand side, the back cover. And this will wind up lying flat as we fill our album. Okay. Again, I really want to kind of go edge to edge on this just because it is the back, so it's protecting the album, but doesn't really get much use. So, Okay. And I'll rub that in place. Well, almost there. I told you we had to use those draws. So we are going to use these draws, and wouldn't you know, they just happen to be the perfect width for our spine pieces. So it's kind of exciting. I don't even know what the measurement is, to be honest with you. What I did was I trimmed off, either side's fine. I kind of trimmed off in between the edge one. So this way, I then could use the piece, and then I'm just going to go in the middle. So according to my measurement here, you're looking at, what would that be? That's 1 3/8 kind of. Again, I don't know that it has to be too particular. It's really more about the draws, right? So I'm going to, just because my paper trimmer gave me a little uncrisp edge, I got to change that blade instead of saying it. So I'm just going to give it a quick little with the ink, and then I will put that down. So you really can eyeball it if you want. It's really just the width of one of the draw rows. And again, I'm going top and bottom, same as that front cover and back cover, hopefully. And I will push that in, okay? And I will do the same for the other spine as well. So again, if my measurements are correct, it's like a little shy of 1.5 inch. And then we are at the point that we have actually constructed our entire album, which is awesome. I mean, I love making albums with the flips and the flaps. I know it can be a little daunting for some people, but hopefully this video makes it a little easier, a little demystifying for you, and you can see how easy it is to just do different configurations. And, you know, if you're working on your own projects, you can certainly use your photos and subject matter as you need, so this way you can make it work for you. So I'll put that off to the side. You can always, like I said, if you wanted to cover up some of the other black seams between the pages, you have more of these. I do think yes, I'm going to cut one more now because I'll show you why as I do the walkthrough. We're going to cut that other one. And the reason I'm going to do this is because we do have the large inside of the album. So I'm going to use this one in a minute. You could, if you wanted to be clever, you could kind of line these pieces up as well and put that into your album somewhere else. But for now, I'm going to stick that off to the side, and I did not use it. Okay, so I'm just going to have this ready as I do the walkthrough. Okay, so album. This is the back cover, spine, front cover. I then open it up. This will stay shut later. We have our paper here on the right. On the left, we would open it up. We have our flip, our flap. Boom, 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 boom. And then we can even close this page to then open it to the back cover of the album. Okay, we open up this flap. We have our, I forgot which way they go, the side flaps, which go top, bottom. Again, this is the 1/8 goes first, then the 1/4 inch. And then we have our folio, that the enclosure that goes up, down, side, side. Okay, so that is a look at our cover pages. As I said, I knew this would just fit in right here, so I am going to cover up that piece. Does that one fit? I think that's going to be a little too close. I think it's just a little too wide to go with the spine hinges, but you could, of course, always cover it with one of your other papers that you have left. Because, do we use any other papers anywhere? I don't think that we do use any of the rest of the papers. So really, what did you have left? You should have, at this point, 2 sheets left. You could always use this for photo mats if you want. This is a gorgeous paper, so I think these 2 are extra. And then you had your little bits and pieces here. Otherwise, you have used all of those papers, okay? And then you also have the spine hinges, and you also have these flaps. Now these I might reserve if you wanted to use them for photo mats as well. You could use this as a base. Again, I caution just adding too much bulk. This is a rather thick cardstock, So if you do add too much bulk, it may make it more difficult to open the album. Here is a walkthrough of the entire completed finished project. I love how everything came out on this. And I have to say, this is one of those projects, I think once you have your base made and your photos in place, there's really no right or wrong with your embellishments here. Between the little bits and pieces that come in that frame and ephemera pack, as well as the laser cuts, it really just all blends together. So whether you use the exact same pieces or not, in this one, I really don't think it's going to affect the finished result. There are written directions that do have images of the actual laser cuts and die cut pieces that are used for each page, so that may help support this particular walkthrough. So here's a look. This is our front cover. Basically, I used like that 4.5-inch frame here, clipped it underneath the clip from the paper, and then I popped up a few of the extra little stamps and tickets and whatnot from the sets, as well as some leaves for a little bit of color range. The laser cuts, these are from the die cuts. These can actually be popped out and you can replace them with photographs as well. So I did add a little bit of dimension. As you can see here, there's one of those little pieces tucked in. It's all about mixing and matching those different layers. So that's the front cover. On the spines, I have both the draw pieces. It just happened to work perfectly with the width of the spine here. And then on the back, I have that rose-colored paper. So we begin by opening it to the left. And again, a little bit of dimension here just to lift those edges. You could certainly ink. You can fray your bits and pieces to tatter it up a little bit. Obviously, this is that look of years gone by kind of feel. So, okay. This is a look when you first open it. This is going to be the flip that rolls out to the right. So for this is just the single page paper. And then I popped one of the 4x6-ish frames, added a few of the tab little pieces over here to kind of further the layering and the dimension on this. There was a little, actually, no, I'm trying to say, there is actually no foam. I did back it a little bit, so it's a little bit lifted, but I have to caution one thing. When you're putting your layers, you really don't want to use too much foam on these pieces, because as you'll see, it's kind of stuffed to the gills here. So you do always need to be checking your layers and that you're not layering it up too much, that the whole book will not close. So that is definitely something to take note of. A lot of times what I do is I will just crinkle those pieces with my fingers. I then use a little bit of glue where it should be adhered down, and then I kind of fluff this up. So this way, if there is any, it kind of gives the effect of that naturalness of the flowers, but yet it's not that there's the foam tape under it that's making it so that I wouldn't be able to close my book. There is a little bit of foam underneath this rose. And then again, this is the paper, the tickets come out of the paper here, and then I put in another ticket here, just lifting it a little bit with my fingers. So that's just kind of a look at that page. Again, it has the little tab underneath, the little butterfly, and then the bird, which I loved how he happened to be carrying the money, or the little clip that was in the laser cuts. I did also put one strip of the draws in here. Again, I caution you can't put too much dimension in here, otherwise your book will not roll accordingly. So you do want to adhere that as close as possible so that the book will close. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we have our flap. I used one of the frame pieces. This is 2 single roses tied with the bow. I did also put this piece, and I'll flip it open, but just to show you, I put foam tape on the left half side of this, so that way the flap can catch that to keep this closed as best as possible. So once again, this is completely tight to the structure. The flap was adhered to the base of the album, so this way all of that stays together. So this is intended to kind of tuck in to that compass over there. Simply just added the frame over here, nothing more. I then have the rose laser cut piece. This has the butterfly connected to it. I'm just trying to feel to see if there was any additional pieces. No, this is just the rose. We then have the clock, we have the butterfly, and a little extra leaf coming out. So I did tuck up a smidge over here on foam tape, and again, just because that already has the dimension on this page over on this side. So I thought that that was okay. Okay, we flip that open to the left. And then this is a look at what is beginning to be that trifold with the gatefolds that we've created. These are 2 different frames from that frame pack. Added a little extra bits and pieces. I did forget in my sample photo to put this little single file tab as one of the layers. But again, you can just see there is no right or wrong tucking in and out these little elements. So then I'm going to flip that open to give you a look at the trifold. So I simply just added on the outer pages these little stem areas, and then on the inside a few extra little tags. The ticket is, all tickets are from the ephemera and frame set. All of the little stamps are in the laser cut pack. So then we have the stem, the butterfly. I loved how these little corners from the laser cuts just popped on what would be that photo. And again, the measurements on all of these are in those written directions, but I will just say, so the center is 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and that just laid nicely on the base of that paper. All of these replications for photos are 4.5 by 3 inch. And that, again, the only reason I went with that 4.5 by 3 inch on that is because I liked how it laid out. Obviously, if you're depending on your photos and you're printing them, maybe you're printing a 4 by 6, slicing it in half, you could certainly do a 4 by 3 and go accordingly on that if you don't want to trim down a whole 4 by 6 photo. Okay, so this is the flaps. I'm then going to flip the flaps open. Hopefully this is all still within my camera shot over here. Simply on the tops and bottoms where we have that rose paper, I really just use those little grommets or little nail heads or whatever they are to kind of corner out the photo. As well, you can use some arrows, you can mix and match. And actually, I think I used most of the pieces when I did mine. But again, just showing how you really can't go wrong with putting a little pop of color here and there. We have the butterfly up here. I have the clock. And then I kind of just use this centerpiece as what would additionally stuff, since you kind of have the paper on the top and bottom coming out. I did put this upside down, it looks like, or no, it didn't. It's a pound. I can't read. I need my glasses. So we have some stamps, some tickets, the little leaf, the little bar, clock, butterfly, and then kind of rounded it out doing the same thing over here. Nothing really was added up top and on the bottom of these, only other than the butterfly over here. So then I close all my flaps, and then I'm going to close the right-hand side, and this is where our extra page that we created opens. So again, this paper was added to the back under over our flap over here, and I just added, this is 2 of the frames from the set, the little ruler, and again, sticking in some extra layers to kind of make that section come to life. This you definitely want to leave nice and flush because this whole little packet rolled up. We don't really add too much dimension in there. This is just a laser cut piece, the clock, and then here I used the, what is that? One of the extra pieces from the set as a mat for my photo, and that is size 2 4 by 6. So your photo could be slightly smaller than that 4 by 6 black. And I popped it with those ornamental corners from the laser cut. So then this whole thing closes up, and that is the left-hand side. Okay, then we go over to the right. We're gonna flip this. In the center panel, this is where we had those pieces. And again, I went with that 4.5 by 3. You can also size it down to the 4 by 3 if that works better for your photos. These 2 pieces were actually like journal looking pieces because I was running low on those little tabs. And I liked how this bottom one overflowed. I don't know what the right word is, but basically it's on top of that other page. So it kind of looks like the whole thing is meant to blend together. So I'd have to open this one first. Again, journaling piece, it has the little ticket, it has a stamp, we have the butterfly down here. This is the journaling piece with the little butterfly sticking out. Super easy. I intended to just put 4 by 6 or 6 by 4 inch photos on the backs of these. You can obviously embellish and do what you like there. This was the inner pieces, and again, this also opens opposite of each other. And then we have our center panel. So this would be 6 by 4 inch photos. These are 2 frames from the set that come nice and layered, and I added in the extra ticket over here, as well as, I'm like, what? This what I did here, this was a little tricky, I guess. I decided to use a craft knife, and I just cut that line so that I'd be able to tuck this leaf inside, as well as kind of tatter it up a little bit, so it just added to that whole layered look. So that is just one piece over here, and again, just craft knife, and then kind of distressed it with my nail. Little butterfly, little florals, butterfly, 3 butterflies going on over here. We have the florals coming out over here and here, and just a nice little mix. So let's see, I think I did that first, and then that was the one I said, let's close the bottom. So that's a look at that center panel. Again, certainly pause as you need on this walkthrough. As well, you'll have images that have supporting pieces laid out, so that's a little bit easier to see. On our right-hand panel, and I didn't really secure this with anything, you certainly could do so. This is kind of popping at the seams, as you can see. So I definitely caution you to be careful of your layers as you're building it. I did use 2 of the frames. There are 2 frames in that laser cut set that are even to one another, and I backed them up to each other so that they would just serve as that flap. I love how that looked. I did add a little piece of paper on this half in the middle, just so it kind of laid flat, because we had the dimension from the paper flap over here. So that is just on this bottom half. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it does have a little bit of a black kind of center in the middle. Okay, so I flip this up, and this is going to be one of those, hopefully I don't make you nauseous as I try to make sure that I'm still within the camera. I'm going to flip the page down, and I'll show you that bottom first. I kept this plain. This paper is absolutely stunning in my opinion, and hopefully you're seeing that on the camera. I used that larger ornate frame from the laser cut set, along with the bird facing to the right, and again, I put that little money in the bottom. Kept it just simple. You can do as you please. So I'm going to kind of keep that off to the bottom over here, since it'll be more about flipping and flapping this way. So the front page, which is going to open to the left, I have that 4 by 6 inch frame, again, sticking in different layers of the stamps and the tickets. This floral piece was one single piece from the laser cuts, and I had just simply trimmed it like kind of down the middle so that I could have a piece popping off to the left and a piece popping to the right. I used that die cut little reel just to kind of make it so that all these papers weren't exactly the same, and to kind of change them up a bit so you didn't know that that was that heart shape behind it. It just looks more like a doily. Okay, I open to the left, so this is the cover going to the left, and again, you can mix and match how you do these, but it's just easier for me to explain which pieces are where. I'll get to this one in a minute because I think it's easier to explain when we see the trifold of it all. So on the panel that's going to open to the right, we again had that same paper with the heart doily. I use the beautiful urns or vases, and I stuff them with my single roses. I did take a craft knife and trim slightly that little opening so that I could tuck that in. It's a little extra detail. You can certainly do so or skip it. I don't know if it's going to give you any major impact, but I do like how it looks if somebody was looking very closely, that it looks like the flowers are coming out of the vase. So that's a look on that. Did add a smidge of foam on this one, a thin layer of foam on that center, just to give it a little bit of a pop from the other two. And then, what do I have? Leaves over here. I'm like, oop, this is all one piece. I tucked in the little brocade to kind of pick up from the paper. And that was a look at that one. So it's just really the brocade, the leaves, and then the florals and the vases. So then I open it up this way. Okay, so now this trifold, I had a good time with this, as you can see. So I layered a whole bunch of frames onto this, kind of tried keeping these sizes somewhat similar on the outside, and then I layered and clustered the smaller frames in the middle. So What do we have going on here? This particular piece was a large piece. It was a large circle piece with the full clock. I did trim it in half so that I could have half sticking out here. And then I have a little piece coming out on the right side over here. So there was a smaller piece here. And to make it so that it all made sense with the clock and all that business, I kind of covered that center with a smaller clock from the frame set, as well as the butterfly to kind of break this up. But this is the other half of this as well. I did fussy cut out this single rose that had the green leaves attached to it. So that is one piece, the 2 leaves with the little rose, just to pop it on top so it looked a little bit more fresh. And it looks like, I think I did the same with this orange one over here. And again, that was just to layer it, give it a little bit more of a natural look. This orangey-ish leaf, as well as the brown leaf here, are separate little pieces from the kit. I guess I glued down an arrow over here that looks a little crooked. We're gonna fix you. A little arrow, the tickets, just kind of ebb and flow to things. Looks like this stem was broken off from something. I think it was broken off from here. So that is my guess, that's my best guess, that I used a piece coming out here and then the piece coming out here. And that's just to maximize. If I know I'm not going to wind up seeing whatever is going on, I kind of just trim it out because it's easy to do so and then tuck it somewhere else. Added the 3 little ornaments down at the bottom. And then in the center page, so we have this little sagey leafy cluster, and then I just layered it with some of those single roses, the leaf clusters, and I did pop a little bit. So this center frame is popped up. I have a little bit of dimension going on that rose, as well as the stemmed rose coming out the top here. And then a lot of this I'm just gluing down at the bottom and using my fingers to curl up the edges. So you can see all those little bits and pieces. I thought that that was super fun. On this side, again, just using those different ephemera pieces on the compasses and then some of the stems. And that's it. I mean, this is a look, and you can see, I mean, whether you use this flower, this stem, that stem, it really isn't going to affect, in my opinion, any of it. I think this collection is just gorgeous. I love the timelessness, the ease of it. I just don't think you can go wrong with any of it. So once again, I thank you for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Great, fun project. Love how it all came together. Hope you do too. And take care. Be well.